Johnny Stanton. We have Reginald Perriman, Shaka Williams, and we are TSARE. This is the There's Something About Real Estate podcast where we talk all things real estate. And today we have with us special guest, John Graham, real estate agent, broker, flipper, investor extraordinaire,
Something like
professional.
that. Something like that.
John, I would like you to bring us right in. We've talked a few times here, and I'm very interested in if you can find something that maybe no one else knows, like a groovy fun fact about you.
Um, Something that's a fun fact about me.
Mm-hmm. Grab that. Just move that to the inside.
Yeah,
I mean this thing.
no,
Or
no.
this. Okay. All right. So it's not only the camera. I mean, I rollerblade all the time. I mean, but I tell everybody that.
Mm-hmm.
But I do all like the groovy tricks that skaters do, but I just do it on rollerblades, which is much more difficult. I really should skate, but that's what I do for exercise. And I started making some clothing too. And started making some clothing.
For skaters?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
It's just kind of for me.
Okay.
It's not like for resale, nothing like that. It's just for my entertainment. So I started making some clothes, and with the clothes, what I do is like I take like a designer, like I take like Ralph Lauren.
Right.
And then what I do is I get a whole bunch of Ralph Lauren type of clothing. Like the outfit I should have wore today. I thought about wearing it, but I just made up an outfit where I took like the waistband of like underwear. So I got this like gigantic like size underwear, like size 50.
Right.
So the waistband all the way around it has Ralph Lauren on it. So then I got really inexpensive material.
Right.
So I just flashed out like this outfit where I had like the plaid shirt, normal chino pants, and then I took like the sleeves off the shirt and I put them for the cuffs of the pants so they match it real nice.
Right.
I took the waistband and I put it like Ralph Lauren right here and down the side of the pants, and I had like pajama pants with little horses on it that I did, and I like cut out the polo horse and I put like a print behind it and put it back on again. So it's kind of like a cool little thing that I just enjoy doing.
That's funny.
Okay.
That's like a cross between Dapper Dan and what was it, Gordon Gartrell? The Theo sweater he had made.
Oh, right.
Yeah, but
right.
what's cool about it is it's all Ralph Lauren.
Right.
Like it's not like I
Sweet.
took material from anywhere else or anything like that. Other than the stitching, it's all Ralph Lauren. So I can say I have a custom Ralph Lauren outfit.
So you remix polo.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Okay.
Sweet.
A little bit about your background in real estate.
Well, I mean, I had some of the highlights. So
Yeah.
so I mean, I've been doing this. I got my license in 1994. So Reggie, when did you get yours?
92.
92. He beat me.
Mhm.
See, look at that. Look at that, he beat me. So I got it, way back when, and some of the highlights, like I was published in the Wall Street Journal a couple times in 2009, 2010, just for the amount of transactions I did. So it was like over 400 both years. So I had that. I was the second agent in Keller Williams in the state of Michigan to do over $1 million in gross close commission. And I did it before like Mark Z and Jeff Glover did, which is really funny to me that I beat them. But yeah, I did it at the one point. I had a management company with over 1,000 units in it, single family at one time. And then I had 1 year that I flipped 350 houses in 1 year.
Wow.
So just some of the like different things, like from the flipping to the listing and selling to even management, that, I just do things on a very large scale. I don't even know how to do anything like where I don't put all my effort into something.
Right.
And I think like my being, sometimes I think it's like, hey, look at, I'm going to prove to the world that, look at, somebody can actually do something that they don't think that can be done.
Like, I mean, 350 flips.
Yeah.
That seems almost impossible, right?
Yeah. So, and then I still listed and sold real estate too, as well,
Right.
that year, just like a lot of years, I flipped the houses on the side, which my side would be somebody's full-time job,
Right.
and then still sold like hundreds of houses.
That's crazy.
So,
Do you see any benefits? Because we go through this a lot. So a lot of investors or wholesalers, they're like, oh, I don't want to get my license. Do you see any benefits of being a licensed broker and being an investor?
well, there's benefits, and there's also like negativities that go along with that too, as well. I mean, if you're a wholesaler, I think it's best you do not have your license,
Right.
because I don't know how you can go to an actual owner
Right.
and really say, hey, I just want to get this for this price.
Right.
And if they ask you the question of what the value is,
Right.
what are you going to say to them? You're going to say, hey, look at, I'm not going to lurk in your best interest. I'm a realtor and I can only work in my best interest.
Right.
I don't know if you're going to get anywhere with that conversation. So there's benefits and negativities to having a broker's license and not having a broker's license, to have a real estate license too.
Right.
So, I mean, it's all over the board, so it's a very open-ended question. It matters exactly what you're doing. I mean, obviously being as a realtor and a broker, you're going to have the access to the multi-list.
Right.
So that's a big benefit.
Mhm.
And you in Real Comp, I think, is one of the less used tools that a real estate agent really should use. Like, here's one example, is like just having Real Comp. Like, people ask me, how do you pick up contractors? I go through Real Comp.
Yeah.
I just find the other guy that flipped a house, call up that agent and ask him, hey, who flipped the house? Who did this? Who did that? Do you have a contractor there? Does that contractor looking for more work? Did he do a good job?
Right.
And then I find contractors. It's out of Real Comp, which is like unorthodox, but
Yeah.
it's just me just thinking outside the box, I guess.
Right. And for those that don't know, Real Comp is our local MLS service.
So I got a question. So when did you started in 92? Is that when you?
No, that's when Reggie started.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I started a couple
94?
years later. Yeah,
In
94
Mhm.
is where I actually went and got my license.
Okay.
All right. So, and I'll tell you a little bit of background on that.
Mhm.
So you kind of get a good feel of like where I kind of started. So and it kind of started back when I was in high school. When I was in high school, I would watch the David Letterman show and I would do my homework. Mostly watch the David Letterman show. But so after that was over, there was a guy that was on TV, and his name was Carlton Sheets.
Mhm.
Okay.
I still listen
So
to
if
him.
you're an old timer now, you got to be over the age
DVDs.
of 40. You have to be over the age of 40 to even know who this guy is. This is before the internet. This is before cell phones, pagers, everything. We're talking about like 85. I was like maybe a junior or sophomore in high school. All right. So I would see this guy and he would just captivate me.
Mhm.
I just was like, no money down,
Mhm.
showing big checks. Very exciting. You know what I mean? It really got my attention. So it got enough of my attention where I actually got his course.
Mm.
But I was so young at the time. I think I got it when I was like 16, 17 years old. I just didn't understand it well enough. You know what I mean? Probably I didn't have the attention span either to actually go through it properly. So I just really didn't get it, but I had it. And it's something that was always embedded in the back of my mind. And so that's the real reason why I even got my real estate license, is that I skateboarded, and that's all I did when I was younger. Skateboarded, and I worked at Red Lobster, okay, which was my first job. So I did that, and then I started to like feel the illnesses of skateboarding because it's a very rough, competitive type thing. You're like a daredevil on wheels.
Mhm.
All right, jumping down big staircases, doing things down handrails. You're meant to get hurt. And I was just getting older. I was like, you know what? I'm taking my girlfriend seriously, about, marrying her. And I was like, I got to do something with my life. I can't work at Red Lobster and just skateboard all the time, even though I love it. So then I was like, maybe I should get my real estate license. So in 94, I went and got it. And I don't even know how I got it. I have such a little amount of attention at that time, a small amount of attention span. So like, I don't even know how I got it. If you ask me how I even sat in a classroom, I don't even know, but I got it.
Right.
So I had it for about more than a year, and then I didn't do anything with it. Zero. So I had it, passed it, great. And then we went to an engagement party, and my wife was talking to this lady, and this lady was like, oh yeah, I sell real estate. And I just started this new brokerage, which was 321 Town and Country over in Clinton Township.
Oh, yeah.
And so she was like, if he wants to talk about it, this is a great brokerage. I just switched from another one, and so on and so forth. So I just said, oh, well, this is the right opportunity, I guess. I was thinking about it. So she just happens to be here. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. So I just went in there. And then when I went into the office, then I met with this big dude, this big guy. He's Italian. All right. And if you know The Godfather, this guy looked like Luca Brasi. Okay, Luca Brasi is the guy that got like stabbed in the hand on the bar,
Right.
just a big henchman type guy
Mhm.
looking out for the Godfather. Okay, so he's this big guy. His name is Steve Militello. Shout out Steve. You know, he's out there if you're listening.
Mhm.
He still sells real estate. Just a big guy. All right, so he gives me a thing called a bresser, which no one in the world now would even know what a bresser is. All right.
It's a
All right.
weapon.
All right.
Sweat hard days.
Yeah.
Floyd Whitman days.
So I can explain what a bresser is. A bresser is a book, and it was done by county. And then inside that county, they did it by alphabetical order of the city, and then alphabetical order of the street inside that city. So they had all these phone numbers in it, and he said, just call. I don't know no
Mm.
better. I had no adult conversation before I started real estate. Zero. I couldn't speak to anybody. Like it, which is now you're not going to be able to get me to shut up on this thing, but you know, but so he just said start calling. So I just did that. And so I just sat with the bresser and I would call from like 10 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. And I just did it. Just call after call after call. And I
Right.
started listing houses and I started selling houses. Then every month we'd have a meeting. And they'd be like, look at this rookie kid right here. And they would embarrass me every single meeting
Right.
because they're looking at this guy doesn't know what the hell he's doing,
Right.
but yet he's listing houses, he's picking up buyers. And if you guys can't do it, why can he do it?
He's sowing
So there's
seeds to
a-
listing leads.
So there's a good plug. That's my book. But there's a he mentioned something that a lot of brokers do, and I used to do it with my office. When you get a new agent, you don't let them know there's limitations. You don't
Mhm.
let them believe it because they don't know what's possible. So you came right in and just started calling where all the older experienced agents that have been beat up. They're like, oh, you can't do that. You can't list 4 houses
Mhm.
a week. But he didn't know any better. So you just went right at it. You didn't know. You didn't have any negativity. holding
What
you
age
back.
is
You did
this?
what you were told.
What-
too.
what
I
age?
was 25 when I started.
Okay. So no
25.
school. So was there school part of this?
Did
Any
you go to college?
secondary
No,
education?
I didn't do it. I didn't do any of that.
Okay.
I briefly went to Macomb Community College and then just briefly left.
All right.
You know what I mean? It again, no attention span. Very,
Right.
I was just too hyper. Which I mean, I'm 50 some years old right now, and I'm just still like I hang out with my daughter's friends all day. You know what I mean? At parties, I just
Right.
can go.
Right.
So I just got a lot of energy, and that's why I don't even know how I passed the class.
So you got your license at around 23 or 24?
Yeah, 24.
All right, about
24.
24, and then got into first starting to sell real estate at 25.
At 25.
All right, then what's the next spot you went to in real estate?
Okay. So I in my second full year. So when I started in 1995, it wasn't a full year. And then I had a full year in 96. Then 97, it caught on like wildfire. Okay. Still worked at Red Lobster this entire time.
Mhm.
Okay. Worked like a whole weekend. Like I worked Friday night because everybody hated working Friday night, all day Saturday, and Sunday morning until open houses would start. So I would get in my hours because I had insurance through Red Lobster at the time, and I worked there since I was 15 years old. So I worked there for 12 years. 1997, I did over $6 million in real estate, and we're talking about 1997. So
Mhm.
like you're close to $200,000 I made. I could not tell a single soul.
Wait a minute. Hold up. You were 25
And then in 27,
and wait at 27 and 90. What was this?
1997.
Making 200,000.
And I still worked at
In
Red
the 90s.
Lobster because I didn't even know how to quit my job,
Wait
Reggie.
a minute. Hold up. You're the second person because Ashley was
Was doing the
working
same
at
thing.
Red
At the,
Lobster.
well, she was at the bank. I thought she was working
No,
at the
she
bank.
was at Red Lobster.
Oh, was
when
it?
She
Oh,
started
okay.
flipping.
Oh, okay.
It's
yeah.
something about Red
Lobster
Lobster
that's
where
doing something.
the employees go off and make all this real estate money and don't quit.
She was making money. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna
They must be a
Right.
good company. They must take care of their employees.
I'm going to tell you, like, and that's another thing too, is like when I was cold calling, like I mentioned before, when I first started cold calling, is that everybody would say like, oh man, how can you do that? And I go, that's hard. They would say to me, and I'd be like, you don't understand what you do at Red Lobster. I sit in front of a tub of shrimp, peeling shrimp for hours and hours and hours. That and not air conditioned.
Manual labor.
Oh, can you imagine the smell?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's not so great. So me sitting down in an air conditioned office at a desk, dressed nice,
Mhm.
calling people that everybody would say no to you.
Right.
waiting for the one person to say yes. That's not hard to me.
Right.
It's just a mental thing. It's like,
Mindset.
I just want to get past the people that say no to get the person that says yes.
Right.
And the faster I can get off the phone with the people that say no, the faster I can find the person that says yes.
Right.
So, and if you ever watch like that mastermind I did, and I said it's about contacts, and that's truthfully what real estate is, and actually all sales, it's about contacts. You make enough contacts throughout the day, you're going to sell something, or you're going to get the results of what you want done. Whether you're trying to wholesale something, whether you're trying to get a listing, whether you're trying to buy a house, you contact enough people, and somebody's going to say, yes, I'll sell it to you at that price. I'll list it. I'll buy that house.
Right.
Numbers game
so
is what you're saying, right?
So let me go back to, you were 27 in the mid 90s making 200,000 a year, but you came from a background, you're a skateboarder. What was your mentality like to not mess that up? Because a lot of people, like me personally, I tell people I would have crashed and burned at 25 making that type of money. So
I'm super frugal type person.
Okay.
Yeah, I always have been. I don't even know where I get it from, but I'm just that type of person where I could just like live off of nothing.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Very, very simplistic, easy, type of like, spending habits. Like, so I was more focused on, and I was actually building a house because we were getting married that year too, as well. I was building a house for my wife and myself. So I took care of the house. She took care of the wedding. And I said to her, look, other than the food, I love you, honey, but my answer is I don't care. So you do whatever you want. Don't get me involved with it because I already answered all the questions. I don't care. You can pick whatever flowers, colors. You can pick my groomsmen. I don't care. That's my answer. So just like if you want to throw the food in front of me, maybe I'll pick out a couple choices there. So luckily I have a great wife that understood my personality too, because she knows once I get into something, I really go for it. So she allowed me to even have the freedom to do what I need to do in real estate.
So in '97, you sold 6 million, and then what'd you do next?
So I kept on selling right around there for probably about the next, like, I would say 5 to 6 years. I would improve, maybe a million or so here and there, but I could see I was hitting a plateau. One of the problems is that I was having trouble with the actual brokerage where I was trying to get assistance, things like that. And I was so young and I was learning very quickly, which I could see was scaring my my office manager a lot. I mean, I was going at such a fast pace, like my learning and stuff. I learned very quickly. I would learn a lot about investments and like HUD housing. I got the whole office signed up in HUD housing, VA housing. I did all that. And like that brokerage was meant to sell nice houses and buy nice houses or sell to clientele nice houses. They weren't meant for like everything that I was trying to accomplish because I was going back to, Carlton Sheets. I want to buy and sell. And then in 1997, that's where I actually bought my first house. I started working with investors and I sold some investors some homes, and I went to one in St. Clair Shores. The investor just couldn't show up. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to buy it. I know absolutely and utterly nothing of what I'm supposed to do other than I know this is a good real estate deal. Right. I grew up as a very spoiled suburban kid, okay, from Sterling Heights. My dad was making 6 figures probably in the 70s. Okay. So anything I wanted, I got. My mom just got me whatever color polo shirt I wanted, back to the polo. But so whatever she would just get me. She would run around all God's great earth. That's like a saying for her too. So, looking for stuff for me or whatever I wanted, I got. So even how my work ethic is, me being frugal, it's very different than what my upbringing was. My upbringing was that my parents had good money, they made good money, and my mom was willing to give me and satisfy me whatever way she could.
This was a flip? This was a flip that you were...
Yeah. So I was meant to show it to an investor.
Oh.
But I looked at it as like, I'm going for it. I'm buying it. So I went ahead and got a mortgage, bought it in 1997. That's when I did my first one. I started, renovating it, not knowing really what to do, trying to hire contractors out, just trying to learn the process of it and sell real estate at the same time. So just did that. and luckily the people that were interested in buying it were the nicest people, and they were handy. So they were able to finish up the house. I made some money, but I got to list theirs. I double dipped theirs actually too. So the whole process kind of worked out.
Right.
So I was like, okay, good experience. Let's do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm the type of person, I like to push boundaries. Like even when I sold real estate, if I was scared of something, I would just go, I'm scared of it. That means I should do it.
You gotta do it.
I just got to do it.
Oh, yeah.
So listing, like for sale by owners or expireds or doing anything that was out of the realm of not my knowledge, I would just go in there and learn it. That's why I say I was learning at very fast pace, because I would push myself very hard.
Mhm.
And one of my mottos was, even when I started, because I just didn't have the knowledge, or even like the conversation of being adult, because like, skateboarding, I can't talk skateboarding to an adult, especially back in like the 80s or the 90s, and that's when I skateboarded. So like me going and say, hey, I kick flipped a 12 stair. No one would know what that means. You guys probably don't even know what the heck that means.
No.
But yeah, so like that would be thrilling to me, but it's more of a skateboard community type thing. So I didn't have like being able to speak or talk well. So, it was a lot for me to even push myself into real estate to learn it
Mhm.
with not even having adult conversations or normal conversations with adults. I just didn't have them. I was more of a physical type of person where I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to show you,
Right.
rather than let's talk about it.
A question: what was the market like in '97?
It was hot.
It was
Yeah,
hot.
it was hot it was hot. Any property that you would list would sell in a hot second.
So it was just like it was.
Yeah,
maybe
just like
6
it was
months.
just months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It just, I think then we wasn't seeing too much of the overbidding, but it was selling quick.
So in '97, so between '97 and like 2007, what were the changes in the market that you saw? Did it go down or did it stay pretty steady?
Yeah, I'll tell you a lot about it, because like I understood the market. I kind of knew what it was going to do before it even did what it did. So okay, let's go 97. Okay, did really good, getting married, building a house, did my first flip. Okay. And then I then quit my job at Red Lobster. I went off to my honeymoon and I never came back to Red Lobster.
Mhm.
So then that's gone. So now I'm doing real estate full time, got a house, got a wife. Now I'm going crazy. So then I'm selling a lot of houses, more and more each single year. And then let's go to 2003. Okay. I was at Century 21 Town and Country from 1995 to 2003. Started interviewing with other companies. All right. Then I realized that, like I wanted to go to Keller Williams. They had the right structure, right basis for me. I could get assistance, so on and so forth. So I went there. So that's when I really started taking off more. The first year I went to Keller Williams in 2003, I sold over 100 houses. And then every year after that, for the next like probably 8 years, I sold 50 houses more every single year. Okay. And that's when I got up to my published Wall Street Journal. It's probably 2010, 468 transactions. And that's not with a team of agents. That's just done with me. That was just me.
468.
468. I mean, I had a lot of employees at that time. I worked with investors, first-time home buyers, builders, regular people buying a house, selling a house, going down, going up, upgrading, downgrading. So, I just had like every forum of real estate I had it covered. Like most people, they would know me for like one thing. They would be like, John works with all the investors.
Yeah.
If you were that type of person that listed those type of houses, you would think that's all I did. And then other brokerages, like they would do like a lot of list a lot of first time home buyer houses. Like that, there was a Century 21 like showcase that was around at that time, and they listed a lot of houses in Warren. Century 21 Collins listed a lot of houses in Warren at that time before they did the foreclosures. And so they would just say, oh, John, we work with a lot of first time home buyers. So I just worked in so many different forums that everybody thought that I was just the king of that forum when they didn't realize I had all this other stuff
King
set
of
up.
all the forums. Right?
Yeah.
So the reason I was asking about was the difference between 97 and 2007. I'm trying to get to the cycles.
Okay. Wait, here. And I'll give you exactly when it happened and what was going on. Okay. So late 90s. All right. Because I always wanted to flip houses, because I always wanted to work with investors, understand it. I started looking at foreclosures late 90s. Okay. All right. So we're talking about like 96, 97, 98, 99. Okay. So I lived in Macomb County. So I would just take everything in Macomb County that was a foreclosure at the time. And if you're talking about 1996, you're talking about possibly one or two a week. Okay. At that time, they were easy to look at, didn't have to schedule, like, you put times down, but you could go whenever you wanted. So I would just go when I could go in between all my appointments, just run around. And I never stopped doing that for decades. And in fact, I still probably do it today.
So where were we at though? So
Okay.
where were we at
So-
in that
so-
in that cycle?
So this is great because I can
Mhm.
tell you firsthand.
Mhm.
So because I looked at all the foreclosures, when I say I looked at them all, I looked at them all.
Mhm.
So there was only 2 a week back then.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden it became 4,
Mhm.
8, more and more. And they were already down like in Macomb County, like Southern Warren,
Mhm.
possibly East Point, just in like the lower type income areas. Then I saw as it got later and later in those years, like as you started getting into the 2000s, oh my gosh, it moved north.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, I'm seeing more. So I was firsthand a day-to-day trade. I would say I'm like a day-to-day trader, like in stock market to real estate. I could really see it. I knew it was going to happen. I could see it was going to happen. So as the years went by, it just started going further north, and I knew it was going to collapse. I could feel it.
Right.
I could
So
feel
let
it.
me-
I could sense it.
I want to point out something. When I asked earlier about the benefits of being an agent, broker, and investor, that is one of the keys there because you're actively in the business every day. So you're projecting what's going on in the market because you're in it and you can feel it. Plus, you mentioned earlier too, the house you brought, you were able to sell it to a couple that was able to finish the project, but you also made money listing their property.
Mhm.
So when I talk to a lot of agents, I'm like, you should be investing.
Mhm.
Like, why wouldn't you invest? Because you have such a huge benefit. You have access to all this information.
Facts.
Yeah.
So-
Go ahead.
So no, go ahead.
Well, because I'm curious. So you said you could sense it happening. So right now, currently, with the changes that because they're like hyper, like in terms of the changes. What do you feel like is coming up now? Like, what are you sensing or what are you feeling?
These are just my predictions.
Mhm.
Okay. But I've been predicting the real estate market for a very long time. I mean, since like the 90s.
Mhm.
So me being the person that I look at all 3 counties of houses. So everything in the Tri-County area, I look at everything that's listed every day. So I look at like numbers that you guys wouldn't see because you're specifically looking in one area where I look very broadly. Okay. So I look at the whole thing on a daily basis and I actually look at every single house. So like, for example, right now around this time of year, single family housing, Tri-County area, there's about 500 listings a day. All right. So I look at every single one,
Right.
so there's not too many people that would even need to do that, but I do because I just want to find the deals,
Right.
so luckily I know every single area. I can just look at price point area and know what a good deal is or not just that quickly. It takes me a whole 15 minutes to do that.
Right.
But, other people, it would take a god's,
Right.
long amount of time,
Yeah.
So what I
15
see,
minutes to figure out what a deal is.
yeah, what a
Oh,
deal is
okay.
out of those 500
Right, I
houses,
got you.
just like
Yeah.
looking through them real quick.
No, okay.
Right.
So in regards to the predicting what I think is happening right now, I've been saying this for a long period of time, is that the market is not based on any numbers. Okay. The financial numbers of where maybe like the state economy is, the state's real bad shape. So is the federal, you know what I mean? The national economy is real bad shape. So for the real estate market to ever go up, it should never. And there's no reason financially it should do it. So what is it geared on now? And my belief is pure media. It's
Mm.
pure media of what the market is based upon. And I've been saying it for a very long time, like for years and years and years. And the reason why I even thought this for years is that there used to be a guy named Greenspan. Do you remember Greenspan?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So if you remember him, he used to go out and say on a quarterly basis
Yeah.
why the interest rates were going to go up and down and what the housing market was going to do, so on and so forth. You stopped hearing from him when the economy fell apart housing wise. Okay. And the reason why is because he was just going to go in there and say, everybody knows it, but everything's awful, guys.
Right.
No one wants to hear that. No, why go out there and say it? So they just had that person, which is the financial advisory, not say it anymore. They just, and you don't hear from even the new person because they realize that if we want to have the economics go right for whatever party's in office, and I'm not trying to promote Democrat or Republican by what I'm going to tell you. Okay. I think the Republicans would do it if they're in office, and the Democrats are in office now. So like, I'm not saying I'm politically anyway, I'm real estate wise. And that's all I really care about, because I've made money when we have Democrats in office, and I made a hell of a lot of money when Republicans are in office. So either office doesn't matter. I just have to figure out what I need to do in my business and what the market is, along with whatever their policies are, so I can make money. And that's really what I care about. Okay. So I'm not really politically driven by what I'm going to tell you is, but this is what I think is going to happen is I think that the ratings of the Democrats right now are so low, which they are. They're very, very low. And so I think what's going to happen is that next year, a year before the election, they're going to lower interest rates. Okay. And they're also going to lower the gas prices. And then on social media, they're going to tell you it's great to buy houses. That's my belief. And that's a guess.
Right.
I'm totally guessing. And I mean, I'm bullish in this market right now, so I'm still buying.
Right.
I'm not afraid of what's going on right now immediately. So I could be wrong, but that's my guess of what I think is going to go on. Because to me, that makes sense to me. But whether it makes sense to me or whether it makes sense to you guys, it's all what could happen or maybe will happen.
So you're saying, telling people that the interest rates are going to go down and the gas prices are going to go down are going to make the masses feel like we're in a better.
Social media controls it more than anything.
They doing it right now, really.
Can
I mean, you know,
I think we missed what he said because
Yeah.
I 100%.
Because we're coming to a new election, and so things when that new person gets placed, right?
no,
we
this
missed-
is
we missed the
Okay,
going,
what I'm trying to say is,
let me say something. We missed the biggest point. He said, "I'm not Democrat. I'm not Republican. I'm real estate. I made money in every market."
Oh, yeah.
Right. And we focus on what the media is saying instead of what we know and what we feel because we're living in it day to day. And he just basically said, this is what I expect to happen, but I'm bullish in this market. So if we know certain things, we should still be moving forward and find ways to make it happen for us and our business.
for sure.
And that's because we can't control what the media is going to say. We can just react to it, but there are certain things we can do to be proactive because we know what the average consumer is doing on a daily basis.
Well, what he's describing is exactly what they did when Donald Trump was leaving
True.
office.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So
Right.
it is a cycle in that matter too. But go ahead.
No, that's what I was kind of getting to because I've been listening, and people are kind of thinking Trump is going to run again. They're also thinking that he's going to win, and I'm wondering what your correlation to lower interest rates, lower gas prices, telling the public like how that's going to impact the economy.
I think it just makes the Democratic Party look good before an election.
Okay.
And again, I'm making sure 100% this is not like
No.
politically
and I get
driven.
what you're saying, so
Because
it's
if
a
the
reverse of what I'm
Republic,
thinking.
No,
if
he
the
was saying-
Republicans
Yeah.
had low rating right now,
Mhm.
I would feel that would still happen.
Okay.
You know,
they
it's
all
not
do the
Democratic
same
and it's
thing.
not Republican.
It's just what they do.
It's like,
That's the
hey,
point.
look, if I was a politician in office and I wanted to look good before an election, what would you do right now? Think about it. You would lower the interest rate and you would lower gas prices, right? Doesn't matter if you're Democratic or Republican, third party, doesn't really matter. You're going to want to make the economy better
Look
right
better,
before
or
an
look
election.
better. Doesn't mean
Yeah,
that
yeah,
it is.
yeah,
You want
yeah.
to look
Get
better.
rid of
Yeah,
some of the
and you got to
pain.
understand too, politicians run a lot of the media
Right.
and they back a lot of media. Now, like your social media is the one thing I think, like even our forum, like realtors just in general, should go out there and say, hey guys, look at the market right now. You can get a better deal on a house. You don't have to overbid. Yes, the interest rate's a little bit higher, but now you're going to get the same payment, and now you get a better house.
And the interest rate is not higher than historical. It's higher
But you
than
got to
it
understand,
was
people
in
are very,
out of this
very
world.
like brief of what
Short.
it might have been. Yeah,
Yeah.
of like not historically.
But you got to
But-
give them that information. So I agree. But so you've been in real estate since '94. You've been in real estate since '92. What's the low prior to 2020?
We
What's
was
the lowest interest
always-
rate you ever
All
saw?
through the 90s, we were. When I started,
Is
it was just
eights.
8.5.
So you've never ever seen sub 5, sub 6. So
Okay,
we
no
never
problem.
seen sub 5 and sub 6. So when people are
Right.
talking about this 2 and 3% interest rate, that's a outlier.
And
Can't use that in data.
I think that's the reason why I stayed on the point prior, where I said that things aren't really based off of good hard numbers anymore.
Mhm.
Exactly.
And because they're not based off good hard numbers anymore, it's what the media tells you. And also, I believe that we had a really low interest rate, and the reason why we had a low interest rate is to keep the real estate market going, because it doesn't matter if there's Republican, Democrat, or third party in office. They know if you keep the real estate market going, you're going to make yourself look good, whoever's in office.
So that's the
Right.
cycle that we're talking about. So I guess what I'm trying to get to is, so that your prediction would mean the cycle would be a little bit off, because he's saying that I'm trying to get to where in '97 where we were in regards to like where we are
It
in
was
this cycle right here.
Okay,
You know
so
what I'm saying?
so late '90s started looking at a lot of houses, foreclosures, and then it just got more and more and more. So
it was
when
at the
when it
beginning,
hit when it
probably.
hit around 2003, 2004,
Mhm,
I could see that there was a problem,
mhm.
and everybody didn't even know it yet. I could tell.
Because we
I
still
could
was
just
hot
tell.
though in 2003.
Oh yeah, it's
2004.
still good.
So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So like when you got into 2005 and 6, that's when it was really turning. It was really turning. Things started slowing down. And I kind of had a feeling of that. And actually that's where I started getting into like wholesaling.
Mm.
So before wholesaling was even a thing of what it is now,
Mhm.
which is crazy right now, is that we started wholesaling back then because we would think this way. There's a person always saying that the market can't get any lower than this.
Mhm.
2005, 6, 7, 8, 9. The market can't get any lower than this.
Right.
I had a bad feeling it was getting lower. I got rid of the house as fast as I could, made whatever I could on it, whether it was 2 grand, 5 grand, 10 grand, 12 grand, whatever.
He was wholesaling.
Okay. I was
Mhm.
wholesaling.
Mhm.
And this is, like I say, before wholesaling was a thing.
Right.
So like I was like on the tip of that, of what that was, what the understanding of what that was. And it was the right time to do it. It was the perfect time to do it. So I did that. And then when I finally got out of that, then I started flipping houses again. But during that whole time period, that's where I was like the king. That's where Reggie knew me as the guy that had every single investor known to man.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. But again, I had every facet still. I still had every facet. Just that facet was working the best at that time because real estate was so inexpensive. What was great is the values would go down, like say 70, 80%, but the rental values would only go down 50%.
Right.
So now you had a 30%, 40% margin of making more money on getting a rental at that time.
Right.
So that's where I sold to tons of investors that would do lease option buys, rent out houses, just tons. So what I was known as is that guy. So I would sit down with an investor, I would just ask him a whole bunch of questions like, what do you want to do? Do you want to buy rentals? Do you want to flip? What do you want to do? Can you do high end, low end? How much work can you do? So on and so forth. Remember everything in my head, not write anything down. And I'd say to him, look, I'm not showing you not one house. I'm just going to find the houses for you. I'm smarter than you.
Mhm.
I'm going to find them.
Trust me.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I swear I just
I
had a
wanna-
conversation like that yesterday with a buyer.
Yeah. Please, if anybody's from out of state, please listen to what he just said, because we get investors that'll call and they're like, "Oh, I want to buy a house 30,000 or whatever the case may be," and they're like, the next day you're like, "Oh, you didn't send me anything. You didn't send me a list." No, you asked me for something specific. You want this. You want this type of return on your investment. I'm going to send you the house that makes sense.
Exactly.
I'm not just sending you some random list.
Mhm.
So that's the smartest way to work it if you're an agent. And if you're an investor, you can't expect somebody just to send you a bunch of garbage that doesn't match your investment strategy.
For sure. But let's try to put this piece of the puzzle together.
All right.
So what we're trying to get to, because y'all been in the real estate so long, I'm trying to understand this cycle, right? And I want to know, I want to, okay, so it sounds like in 2007, we were probably just starting to start
It
going
started
up.
before then.
What year? What year?
I would say like you said, about 03, 04, you start seeing the signs, because most of the agents that were stuck on retail, and I started Century 21 too. My broker Randy, before I even knew what wholesaling was, this was in the 90s. They brought and sold properties, they flipped. But some properties I would bring and say, hey, this seller just wants to sell for cash. He would buy it and take it up the street and sell it to Remco. And he would be like, okay, here's $5,000. I'd be like, shit, I made $5,000 for just meeting the seller that I called out of the Bressers. So he was buying it and basically wholesaling it to Remco, who brought most of the east side of Detroit. They brought a lot of properties. So later on, Remco went out of business. I think they went bankrupt or something. There was an asset management company called Sigma Financial. They had tons of properties, and they hired my broker at the time, and then eventually hired me when I started my own company to go out and liquidate all of these properties.
What year?
That was like 99, 2000,
Okay.
around that time.
All right.
And that was my first experience with an asset manager. And
So we're in the buyer's market then.
it was more of a balanced market.
Balance?
It's just your
Okay.
average buyer was not buying a foreclosure. They would buy maybe a HUD home every now and then. But then I started seeing banks. We started signing up, and then that was the first time I started doing BPOs for banks. And it was just like
99.
completely different. This was early 2000s.
Early.
That's very, very like most everybody that was in real estate,
Yep.
it was all retail.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We were very few real estate agents that ever worked in even that forum, even at that time. Even with investors, very, very small amount.
Yeah.
Balance. Still, so you're saying balance in 99, 2000.
But it was
No, it was still a seller's market. Still a seller's market.
market.
Oh yeah, 100%. Until about 2003, I would say.
right.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
when you start seeing.
But we could see the signs maybe a little bit earlier, or even know that they were foreclosures, because
Right.
like there's many agents that didn't even know that a foreclosure was even available. They
Okay.
didn't even know about
how to write
houses.
the deals.
Gotcha.
Like, it was to the point around 2003, 2004. You start looking at inventory. Okay, there's 10 homes on the market in this area, but 2 of them are foreclosures. Then you start seeing 4 of them are foreclosures. So 4 out of 10. So the percentage of foreclosures compared to regular retail property started to increase. That's why he said he could see the signs. Like, okay, the foreclosures are creeping up, but the retail properties.
So,
But even
coming
between
down.
that, during that 2003 to probably 2005 period, you had a lot of people starting to get into the fix and flips like big time.
Yeah.
I would say it became more predominant because just because of like what was going on with television
the
and
media goes
yeah.
Oh, big time.
Yeah,
Big time.
yeah.
But that was kind of a sweet spot too, because we still had
The market was still
still
good enough at
retail
the time.
values.
It was balanced then.
But you
It was
could
balanced.
go buy a foreclosure that was on sale for 100,000, and on retail market it was still worth 200.
It wasn't so oversaturated like it is right now.
Yeah.
But okay, so 96, 97, seller's market,
Sellers market all the way up to 2003, I would say.
2003. Then
Yeah.
we get to
And
more
then,
balance.
and then it was maybe balanced,
For a
maybe
second.
balanced for maybe a year, maybe
I'll
two.
say about
Okay.
2 years, right.
All right, and then it definitely was a buyer's market up until.
Oh yeah, it was just like scared to death buy a house.
Yeah.
Yeah. After that, everybody was scared because they didn't know. Like, and that's
You feel
why.
like people were scared to buy retail.
Oh
after
yeah, retail.
2007?
Oh
Yeah.
no, way before that.
2003,
2005, I would say
Yeah.
that from 2005 all the way to 2000, I would say 8 or 9,
Yeah.
regular retail people weren't going out there and really buying houses. because they were scared, and and there was big job loss at the time. With the big three, it's like it was a really bad situation with here in Michigan. One, it was then they were outsourcing so much work at the time that they finally said, "Hey, union people, we don't care no more.
Right.
We're letting you go. We're cutting your pay. You're gone." And then that's right when the realist. Oh yeah. It happened consecutively with the market going bad at the same time. It was like the worst thing that could possibly happen. That's why the value was so much lost in Michigan, other than other states. One, it happened here sooner, and two, the big three made changes at that time too, as well. On top of it, so you're talking about people that would just their UAW work, like a representative would go in and go, "Well, we got you more money," and then every year they would get more money, no matter what, no matter if it made sense or didn't make sense. They just would go and get them more money. And then they just put a stop to it at the same time the real estate market went. So now you got people that aren't working that are going to lose their house anyways now because they just refinanced, paid off all their credit cards, have zero equity in it. Now, see, that's the difference of what is now. Yeah. So that's the difference of what it is now. Now, a lot of people are talking about like, okay, this foreclosure wave is going to happen. Now, one, yeah, it was held up because of the pandemic. 100%. You're going to get more foreclosures. But I also want you to think about this is that the market has gone up so much in the last like 2 to 3 years that all the people that were foreclosed prior to that now have equity. So even if they lost their house, like they bought it 5 years ago, they got equity in it. So most likely they're not going to lose it, or the bank's not going to lose it either on that deal. Now I'm going to tell you what the problem is. The problem is the people that bought the houses in the last 2 years. So if they're losing those in the next like couple years, and I really think it's going to be a wave 5 years out. 5 years from now, the people that bought so high in the last 2 years, if the market's not so great, they're going to bail out of it in 2 seconds because there's no equity there.
What if they bought high in the last 2 years? The house doesn't have equity currently, but they spent $100,000 out of their pocket cash buying that house.
That's why they're not. So I agree with you. That's why they're not going to do that. In addition to that, they put a lot of their money in their interest rate. I don't care which you can go back out to the new market with the new interest rates. You're going to be spending way more for your house for $150,000 house than you did for a $300,000 house with those low interest rates.
We're talking about the people. I see what he's saying. The people that paid, the house was $250,000. They put the minimum down payment, and 3 years from now they're in trouble. They don't have.
We're talking about government loans, government loans. I'm not talking about the person that puts money down because they still have equity. Most likely, the people that have equity in a house are not going to leave it anyways. But if you put
like the grant program,
government loans, anything VA 0 down, you can get all their closing costs paid 3.5% down. You can actually get the money borrowed. People that are putting very little into a house, they're going to be the most people that walk away from them.
They've always been. That's what
happened when we had the crash before, because most of your subprime loans, there was no skin in the game up front. So you went into a house without equity. Some people were getting cash back at closing.
But there's a difference. But there is a difference now, though. Yeah, the interest rate is going to be the
lending institutions tightened up on a lot of things. So this wouldn't happen again. But, I believe that those governmental type loans with the very low down payments are going to be the highest foreclosed on, just like they always have been in the past.
They're high risk. They're high risk loans. That's why they're
more foreclosures popping up.
Oh yeah, there's more, but again, it's not something where it's getting bombarded in the market. It's not like that. It's not, just put it this way, it's not affecting the market either. It's not affecting it where, oh my gosh, all these foreclosures. And you got to remember, they mostly had equity in them. So if they have equity in, that means the bank can sell them and still sell them at a decent enough price. And
you have they're more proactive with short sales. So you have people that they're behind the bank and saying, hey, we can't do a loan mile. Let's do a short sale while the house is still intact, and we can get out of this at break even or whatever the case may be. So there's not going to be, like he said, if the homeowner has equity first and foremost, they're going to sell it before they lose it. If they're not wise enough to do that or in a position to do that, the bank is going to get it and make money, or try to get that person to do a short sale first.
So we're back in the seller's market right now. We've been in the seller's market for how long?
I don't know if it's really any kind of market right now.
Mm.
I think it's
Yeah.
I think you can be in a seller's market if you have a property that is priced right
Mm-hmm.
and is in really good condition,
Mm-hmm.
then you can get like multiple offers or offers very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But in the same aspect, you have properties that are mediocre and they think they have the extra nail in them, and they want to price it like higher than everybody else does.
Mhm.
And so that's also, they don't have the mind that the market has changed because we're in it.
Right.
We understand it,
Mhm.
you know, but if they don't want to price it that way, they're going to price it higher. And so that's having an effect on the market too, is that there's a lot of homeowners out there that are trying to get more and don't realize it yet that the market's changed.
Right. And
So-
that's why you start getting the price reductions.
Mhm.
And then the media and the consumers see that on social media, and they're like, "Oh, all of these price reductions are happening."
Mhm.
Well, not
They was too high
really.
anyway, right?
They started out too high,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
They thought the market was still going like this.
But you're still in the seller's market though. So in my opinion, because all right, you still have more houses. You have more people that need a house than you have houses available to sell.
I don't know about that anymore.
Mhm.
I see the inventory still getting higher and higher month after month.
Mhm.
So I don't 100% agree with that.
Mhm.
Like I say, it's very like wish-washy on what kind of really market we're in. I think
Yeah.
it depends on the house and the pricing.
And the
Um,
area too, because each city now you're starting to see different cities have completely different market characteristics.
Mhm.
Like you put a house on the market in this area and it's going to get highest and best multiple offers. Similar house somewhere else, affordable, and it sits for 30 days.
So I got a question. So if you're somebody that was in the market to buy a house, you haven't got a house yet. What are your options? Option one is to do what? Rent.
No, I'm buying a house still.
So I'm just that's one of the options is to buy.
Right. I'm not.
Right.
I think you
Well,
should just
we
be
just
very
said-
careful
Mhm.
when you go out there working with, you know, buyers, buyers just even looking for houses. You just want to make sure that you get a house that you're not overpaying for,
Mhm.
that you're getting it at a decent market value. You know, I mean, I think you're in a market where you can do that.
Right.
But it also, in some of the hot areas, it's still like, let's say Royal Oak, where we're or right now,
Right.
it's still a very competitive market. So you know, you just want to like, and I think the buyers already know this. I think the buyers are more educated than they ever have been before, and the agents are more educated in regards to market,
Right.
you know, than they ever have before, because like the changes happen so quickly. Before, when we first started, those changes, we didn't know it as real estate agents, or weren't talked about, or didn't have forums like we have
didn't even
right
the
here,
internet.
even talking about this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So all the media too helps you out to, like Zillow. Just
Right.
anybody can pop on Zillow and just find a market value in a split second.
Not really.
Wait.
Yeah.
Not really. But so how do you determine what determines that you're overpaying for a house?
I mean, you should get a good real estate agent.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
for
but
sure.
yeah, but I'm
I
saying
For sure.
so I don't think that anybody, I don't think that's a real thing. Like, you know what I mean, that you're overpaying for a house unless
Well,
not in a manner which a lot of people think about it. What I mean by that is if you're going to go rent, so we're just talking about people that are buying right now, or that still need to buy, or who don't have a house. So they got to either go rent, and you just said where the rent's at right now.
the rents are super
They're high
high.
as hell, right?
Right.
So you got high rent. So or you can go out and buy you a house with the interest rates at where they are right now, and you're most likely still going to be paying less than what you're paying in the rent.
Oh yeah, no, I just like Reggie said, I'd go buy a house.
Yeah.
I just say just
So-
be careful in the market. That's all
Yeah.
I'm saying.
No, I get what you're saying. It's just kind of like I was just doing a consult with the buyer last night, and she wants to really bid on these properties in like Southfield, and like they've been on the market for 2 days. They're gorgeous, you know, they're quote unquote hot property, and it's kind of like, okay, you can bid on whatever you want. Let's do whatever it is that you feel is right, or you can kind of just have a little patience, and we can find a house that maybe has similar characteristics, but you don't have to go into a bidding war and compete for this house and spend $60,000 above ask price.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what I tell buyers is whatever your budget is, stick to it. Don't let the emotions of competition cause you to pay more and get out of your
Mhm.
budget.
I think it
If-
was okay for a hot minute, but I think right now it's kind of like what John was saying, like we are kind of getting to the point to where it's like we at the tipping.
Yeah,
So like maybe if this was like a year ago, I felt like we still could press it a little bit, bid a little bit more above X.
I still told people don't go. Whatever your budget is, stick
Don't
to
go
it.
above
No,
it.
not necessarily go over
Oh.
your budget. So because most people, you have what you have, right?
Right.
And so you buy what you can,
Mhm.
even if you're putting cash into it. But I think it was smarter to do it at a certain time because the equity was still
Oh,
increasing.
appreciate
Mhm.
that.
I think
Yeah.
the opportunity right now for a buyer is better than it was a year ago.
100%.
Yes.
So I mean, why not take advantage of that as a buyer? So go out there and be able to bid on a house. I say get a good real estate agent. The reason why I say that is that I see that the showings on my listings have gone down. And I
Right.
mean, I list like, 3,
Big
4
time.
properties a week.
Right.
Okay. So here's the one thing is I know if I was a buyer's agent
Right.
and seeing the showings and the other thing is they're not getting shown as quickly.
Mhm.
If you got a really good agent, I mean, I know how I am. I know how
Yeah.
fast I move. I'm just that guy that moves faster than anybody else can. I would be in that house that day, bidding on that house that day and saying, look, I got a good bid. And then you don't have to go in that overbidding because I realize now that the overbidding starts like 5 days after. Like, because everything's slowed up just enough
Mhm.
where now if I was working with buyers, I'd be that first guy in and I'd be giving them asking price probably on a lot of these properties that are worthwhile and not being able to, not having to get into that bidding war. Because they just said, look, I gave you everything you needed to get, and I know the property's worth it. I'm not saying every single property should overbid on or bid asking price, but there's particular ones that
Yeah.
if you can move with your buyer that quickly and get them in, the opportunity is there now as an agent working with these buyers and the buyers themselves.
Right.
So the faster that everybody can move, you're going to get a better deal now.
So
I want
Go ahead.
to, because we gotta
Yeah.
finish off with his flips.
Mhm.
How many flips on average are you doing a year?
A couple hundred.
Or a couple hundred?
That's crazy.
I want to know
So-
how many have you done so far this year?
I think I have already closed out this year. It's somewhere around 120 or something, 125.
And that's for 2022.
Yes.
And I have another question that follows up to that question. How many acquisitions did you make in the last 7 days?
Oh, I don't even know. Okay. I have right now, I have 125 that I'm currently doing. Okay. So, again, I'm kind of bullish,
Right.
because looking for next spring to
Mhm.
hit good.
Yeah.
And then that's what I'm hoping for. So yeah, I'm doing that many right now, which are composed of, about like 25 that I have that are already renovated and already sold to buyers and we're just closing on them.
Okay.
So, and then I have another about like 10 to 15 that are currently active right now that are on the market. And then I have another almost 80 that are like, in like renovation right now.
Okay.
And then I have another like 15 or so that I'm relocating tenants out of the properties. So they had tenants in them, either non-paying or paying, and we're just trying to work out some way to get them out of the house and get them situated somewhere else.
So your main thing right now is flipping? I mean, is flipping your
Yes,
main
yes,
thing?
yes. Listing and selling, I do very little of. I'm probably only doing like 3-4 million a year. So like I don't really spend that much time in regards to listing and selling. I spend all my efforts into buying and selling.
How are you finding your flips?
Mostly through wholesalers.
Okay.
Yeah, the majority is through wholesalers. And what I do is I work along with the wholesalers. So a lot of people like treat wholesalers very poorly. They're like, well, they don't know what they're doing. And that's fine to me because I just work along with them, help them out whatever way I can. And I know if I help them, then they're going to turn to me once they have properties. And then I take every property very seriously. So I always comp everything out. I always get back with everybody. And I try to work along with them as almost like a team. Like, like I'll help you, you help me, and we'll go from there. So I do that a lot with wholesalers. So I work in a very different fashion with wholesalers. I have about a half dozen wholesalers that just strictly just work with me. where they just book me out on appointments. I go, here, do what you do best. Go out there and do your marketing. Go out there and find these leads. Let me do what I do best, is running around all over the place looking at houses and making the correct bids on them. And then you bid lower than what my bid is with that owner and get it locked up. You have your built-in profit, and you never have to run and look at a house. So wholesalers out there, if you want to just concentrate on being, like a stay-at-home type person, there's no need for you to run around with me. There's no need to market to any other buyers and let them drive you crazy about being wishy-washy. You don't have to order title work necessarily unless you're in the city of Detroit, and I highly recommend you order title work on these properties before you do any kind of marketing on them. But if you're just doing it with me, I'm patient, and things don't work out, it's okay. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be upset. Where a lot of other wholesalers are going to be, I let that money sit aside, and you should have had free and clear title, and and I'm not going to be like that. So if you're out there, just give me a ring, and then I can go ahead and work along with you. But that's how I do it. Is that they're a good source of marketing to me, and I treat them like business partners. In fact, like a lot of them, I've created other businesses with them that generate me activity too as well. So like it's just utterly like a good thing that I've done. And I also network with a lot of agents about finding properties too as well. I'm always like, hey, if you ever have something, I'm here for you. I'll be able to buy it. Make your life very easy on this whole transaction. We'll clear out the house. You don't have to wait for the owner to take a year to clear out the house. I'll do it right away. You take out what you need. So it's agents and wholesalers that I've been working a lot with to get all the leads. And that's one of the things that people think that's extraordinary about what I do is that how I've networked with all these people to be able to do this, to be able to have them do all this marketing or finding of these houses where I don't have to now do it. But again, I'm like their best buyer.
So one thing I noticed too, like you went to several of my properties, but your offers are solid. So a lot of investors will make offers and then they'll beat you up on the inspection and this. So when John submitted an offer like on Woodburn, it was straightforward, cash, clean. I know what I'm buying. Worst case scenario, this is my price. So I can go to a seller and be like, this deal is going to close at this price. Most investors, they'll be like, okay, I'm gonna bid up here, do the inspection, and come back and beat you down 30,000 and all of that. So that reputation that you're gonna actually close at this as an agent lets you know, okay, I know it's solid. Now it's up to the seller if they want to accept it. So because you physically go out to every property, right?
Yeah, so I do. And then a lot of people are like, why do you do that? And the reason is that I just want to explain to the wholesalers a lot of what's going on. And I have all that insight. I mean, I've been negotiating. I probably have done well over 10,000 real estate transactions, which is just unheard of. So like me just even getting that brief, like sometimes like notion of where the seller might be at, or what I can get a feel about the real estate. Like I can look at a property for 5 minutes, but talk a half an hour about it. So I can help the wholesalers out on, with their negotiation, like, oh, the house has a problem with the foundation or needs this, or they didn't do their city inspection yet, or the seller seemed this way. When I looked at the property, I can give them a lot of insight. Same with the agents too. Like if I go look at a house, like say for example, Reggie, you get me to go over to one of your properties and I'm there with you and we go together. Not only can we talk about like investment wise, but we can also say, well, maybe this isn't the best option. Maybe that seller should try the retail market. And I can talk to you about retail wise. I'm like a guy that you can bounce all kinds of different things off of because I've been in both of those forums so well, just like yourself.
Are you doing inspections?
No, the reasons I ever do an inspection is if it's on well or septic, because I can't physically see these things. I want to have the water tested. I need somebody to go out there and actually check out the field, run the water, test the ground, check the tank.
Something
I can't physically see it.
Right.
Yeah, I can't physically see it. If it's not on well or septic, typically I'm never making an inspection. Never.
How are you funding your flip?
Okay, so this is how I do it is anything that's under the price of like say 80,000 or so, I usually buy a cash. And then all the properties that I go ahead and even renovate or get money lent to me on, I do all the renovations in cash. Okay. But how I get them funded is over the years, and then we're talking about decades, is that I've gotten investors to invest with me.
Right.
And they're all just personal people.
Right.
And if I could say out there to all the people looking for money so they can invest in real estate, take control. Don't go to the big lender or a lender that just lends to people that, flip houses. Control your own destiny. Get your own people, and never cut them in on the deal either. Okay. I always say this, and this is like a motto of mine is, what would you rather have? Would you rather have a lot of money or the process to make a lot of money? What is really the most important thing?
A lot of money.
No, it's the process
A lot of
to
money.
make money. Anybody can have money
Right.
and anybody could lose the money.
Right.
But if you always have the process, you always have
Oh, I got
money.
you. I got you. Yeah.
It's crazy that I swear, I literally was like in my car and because it was based on my day yesterday and everybody I met and the money I collected. I was like, damn, how much money do I actually have?
Right.
And it's to your point, it's the relationships and the process of getting it and the things that people will invest in.
So you can duplicate it. You can
They're
do it
investing
again.
in you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So if you do well with people, then they come to you. I always say money doesn't refer out business. People do.
Mhm.
And then people like I've gone to, they lend me the money. So now it's all referral based, almost like I get more and more money because the 30 plus people that lend me money tell somebody else.
Mhm.
And they're like, here, look, I've been investing for how long with John, and go to him, and it's you just get paid interest. You can keep him rolling it if you want to. He's always got properties, so on and so forth. And that's why the reason I even do the amount that I do is because I have the backing to do it.
And you never cut them in. You're only
Never,
getting your interest.
never, because again,
That
the
profit.
process of making money is much more important.
Mhm.
I always say that you could take all my money from me, okay,
Don't make it.
and I'll be a millionaire
Mhm.
next year.
I have one more last question. Will you wholesale properties that that's in your that you acquire?
When you say wholesaling, I do it a little bit differently because I work with wholesalers. Typically, what I do is I'll close on them still.
Mhm.
Okay, I'll close on them and then resell them.
Okay.
I always
Yeah.
want to close on everything because that wholesaler doesn't want that because they feel like they get taken advantage of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I never want my wholesaler that I'm working with feeling that way. And it's funny because a lot of wholesalers even see that, oh my gosh, you put the property back up on the multi-list and you resold it.
Right.
And now I said, look, if you got the money, do some deals then.
Yeah.
Do some. And it's funny. There's one wholesaler I work with. He's so very young. Shout out to Soham out there. He's a very young guy.
Right.
And I think he's a sophomore in college. He's probably like 20. I don't even think he's 21 yet.
Right.
And he really knows what he's doing.
Mm.
So he's out there and he saw me do that a couple times. I bought his properties. I just put them back up and resold them.
Right.
He's like, oh my gosh,
Right.
you did that? I mean, he did well with them too. I think he
Right.
made 20 grand on both these houses that I even bought. And then one I made 20 grand, one I made only 7, but I still made 27 grand. And all I did was multi-list them.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? That's all I did.
I'm glad you mentioned that because a lot of times the wholesalers I know, they don't understand the power of the marketing part of the MLS because it opens it up to other investors and retail buyers as well. So that's good to know because we've done that before where we've actually brought a property and 2 days later it's on the MLS and you're making money. It's like, what's wrong with
But I
that?
think it's
We'll
really,
do it the one we closing next week.
I think it's
Right.
really
Next
important
Saturday.
though that you
Come on.
tell the wholesaler that you're doing that ahead of
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
even a real estate agent too. Like
Yeah.
there's been times where I bought a property and they wasn't listed,
Right.
and it was a real estate agent that gave me the lead. I'm like, I'm just going to list it, so they're not offended. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't ever want to offend anybody,
Right.
do anything like that, and I don't want them to get in trouble too. Like, hey, look at maybe the seller could have got more money or something like that. Look, I'm relisting this thing, just letting you know.
Now, real quick before we wrap up, how are you dealing with contractors currently? And are you having contractor issues like everybody else?
I
or-
mean, I really don't have like the issues that most people have. And here's the reason why. Okay. One, I have a project manager. Okay. And that project manager goes to a project manager per house. All right.
Okay.
So there's a project manager that takes care of everything we need to get done for that house. And I have a project manager that oversees that project manager.
Right.
So like I was saying, I got close to 80 in rehab right now.
Right.
So that project manager will go to them and make sure we can get the house done. And he's willing to help out too. Like if there's any problem solving, anything that like I can't find a plumber, we got our own plumbers.
Right.
And you need to pull a permit, he'll help for a permit. You need help with the city, he's willing to help with the city. He's willing to facilitate what we need to get done to get the house finished. Okay. So those project managers can do sometimes one house and some they can do like a half dozen. Okay. And we got everybody in between. All right. So we have about 15 or so project managers that my project manager oversees.
Okay.
All right, to get all those projects done. So the reason why I don't have the typical problems now, I still, it's hard to get sometimes the house done and there's delay in regards to labor and materials right now because it's a challenge. But I don't have the typical problems is because once these project managers get a hold of me, meaning that I contact them, they're like, oh my gosh, I have the right person. I always wanted to work with a person like this, meaning that I have a project for them at all times. I have a project manager that's willing to help and facilitate a deal, another person to go to help get the project done. Sometimes they don't have that other person. They're lost. And two, having the knowledge of how to do flips, how long they take, how to problem solve them is also like very challenging. And now that's all in place with, Tony, my project manager. He's great. We have a lot of knowledge, him and I. And so we know the time frames. We understand that there might not be working on our project every single day. We're not freaking out or going and picking out 5 different colors for the house, or, you could see all these houses that are done. So even a brand new project manager can see where the quality of our work are and what we expect of them.
Right.
They can see it where, say a newbie type of flipper, they're like, I want this done in, this $50,000 rehab done in 30 days. And it's going to be all this custom stuff. And I want it to be intricate like this. And I'm going to drive you crazy. And, so that's why I say when they get a hold of me, they understand that, oh my gosh, this is what I've always wanted. And so typically they don't go anywhere. If anything, if they're not good enough, we get rid of them, not the opposite way around. So that's the benefit. And plus financially, we have it really together where we pay out our draws on time. We have invoicing. We got somebody like my project manager and my controller in my office looking at all the bills, making sure what stage it's at, making sure they get paid on time, making sure they don't get paid when they're not at certain stages, and letting them know that you got to get more done or finish the project or whatever the case is. I'm not saying it's not problematic. I'm just saying that it's easier because I have the structure and also I have the amount of properties to get one to the other. So they're not worried about going somewhere else. I would say on those crews that I would say 75% of their business is mine. They don't have to go and look for other work necessarily. I mean, a lot of them do have other jobs going on, but as soon as they see, they start gearing more and more towards mine rather than the other, because it's just much easier. And you got to remember too, you got retail out there.
Yeah.
You know how retail is so hard with contractors? They switch things up. You can't even smoke on their property or even out in front of the car. What I mean? Like they could get all whacked out on little tiny things. They got to clean up every single day.
Right.
They got to stop at certain times. With mine, they could leave the job, come to the job. As long as it's done in the time frame, we're good. So I don't have the same kind of problems that a normal person would have trying to find contractors.
All right. Can you tell us where can we find you at? Social media handles?
I don't have none of that. None of that. You got to call this guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, John Graham, and my phone number, it's super easy. It's 586-944 John. 944 John. So the audience, guess this is my phone number, is 586-944. What is it, guys?
John.
What is it?
Right.
Hey.
Come on, what is it?
John.
There you go. 5646.
Are you skateboarding over at the place now? Where are you skateboarding?
I don't skateboard
Oh,
nowhere.
okay.
Rollerblade, yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
so I hit all the skating rinks. I hit them all.
Rollerblade.
Yeah,
Right.
rollerblading, Skate World,
Yeah.
the new rink, Great Skate.
All right.
Yep, Northland.
Right.
Riverside,
Oh, yeah.
Bonaventure.
Right.
Yeah, I was just there the other day.
Right.
What was that?
You got a will?
On
Um,
Schoolcraft.
no, I don't go to that one. It's
Okay.
because their floor's bumpy.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
Their
okay.
floor is
That means
bumpy.
you've been there though.
Oh yeah, I've been there. I've been everywhere.
Okay, guys, that's a wrap.
All right.
It's hot.